If you are in your 20s, then you have to understand this. Our lives are a result of thousands of small decisions that we make along the way. So every time you see someone that has an exceptional life, know that that life is a result of a lot of great decisions that they made along the way. And conversely, every time you see someone that does not have such a good life, that life is also a result of some not so great decisions that were made along the way. Now, most people live mediocre lives that are a result of mediocre decision making, and that's fine. But if you are someone who wants to live a truly meaningful life, if you want to do something worthwhile with it, then you have to get your life in order and you have to make decisions that align with that end goal. Heads up, it is not as easy as it seems, and here's why. Most people do not understand a fundamental theory of actions and outcomes, and that leads them down the dark rabbit hole of wrong and misguided decisions. You see, the life that you will live in your 30s and beyond will be a result of the decisions that you make in your 20s. And the reason I'm making this video is so that you can understand how this theory works, and hopefully you can avoid the mistakes that everyone else makes while making decisions and go on to make truly exceptional decisions that lead to an exceptional life. Now, here's a concept that you've probably heard of before. Everything in life is a transaction. इसका मतलब है तुम्हें अगर कोई चीज़ चाहिए तो उसके लिए तुम्हें कोई चीज़ देनी पड़ेगी. Now, how this transaction generally works is everything has a price, which means if you want something, you have to pay the cost required to obtain that thing. Now, here's something which a lot of people do not know about this concept, right? It is a little nuance, is that sometimes the cost or the outcome are not visible because they are not paid in real time. Now, there are two major fallacies that play out because of this nuance, right? And the reason most people don't make great decisions is because they do not understand these two fallacies. Once you understand them, once you recognize them, and once you understand how they are influencing your decision making, then you can stop making the mistakes that lead you to those bad decisions. Now, fallacy number 1 is the cost fallacy, which means that the outcome you get in real time, but the cost is paid later. Now, let me illustrate this using an example. Most people believe that their 20s are the time to live life to their fullest. And it is true to a certain extent. I mean, you have no responsibilities, you have no accountability, and that makes for a very potent combination. So, as a result of this belief, people go on to live their 20s often recklessly. They get involved in a lot of hedonistic, pleasure-seeking activities. So some of the activities that I have seen people be involved in is go to parties regularly, indulge in intoxication, indulge in short-term relationships, hookups, one-night stands, etc. Right? And they're doing all of this while thinking that it's all free, right? That there is no cost involved to any of these activities. And here's something, a rule of thumb that you should all know, is that everything has a cost. Everything, right? And the reason that these people don't see the cost is because the transaction does not happen in real time. So they are getting the outcome now, right? They are getting the high from the intoxication, they're getting the highs and the gratification from all the activities that they indulge in. They're going out to parties, they're having fun, they think they're having the time of their lives. And so all the outcomes that they want, they're getting right now. And they're not seeing a cost because the cost is not paid in real time. The cost is paid later. The cost is paid when they're in their 30s, when they're in their 40s. The cost is paid in terms of poor health, in terms of poor relationships, because you've only indulged in short-term gratification, you've not spent time building meaningful relationships. The cost is paid in terms of their mental health, it's paid in terms of their physical health, and all these things start to become apparent 5 years, 10 years, 15 years down the line when they actually start seeing the results of their action play out in their lives. Right? And that is why I see so many people make that trade thinking that there's no cost to it, but actually the massive costs only emerge much later in their lives, right? So this is fallacy number 1. This is the cost fallacy, and that is why a lot of people I know make this mistake in their 20s is they indulge in pleasure-seeking, hedonistic short-term gratifying activities which are giving them a lot of pleasure, but what they're not seeing is that all of these will manifest 5 years, 10 years down as major problems and gaps in their lives, right? So understand that everything has a cost. So each activity that you partake in, in every friend that you have, every decision essentially that you're making that is bringing you some favorable outcome or some pleasurable outcome is going to have a massive cost. Think deeper to identify what that cost might be and when it might manifest, maybe 5 years down or 10 years down, and then think about the decision that you're about to make once again, and maybe evaluate if it's worth it or not, right? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. It's not up to me to judge, but if you want to live a meaningful life for the next 50 years and not just for the next 5 years, then make sure that you're evaluating each decision that you make, keeping this fallacy in mind. Now, the second fallacy is the outcome fallacy, right? And this is also a very interesting case, and this plays out in the exact opposite way of fallacy number 1. Now, how fallacy number 2 plays out is that the cost is paid in real time, but the outcome is realized much later. Now, I will illustrate this with the help of an example too. Let's say you start going to the gym, right? And you want to get into shape, you feel like you need to get fit, and going to the gym is the way that you want to achieve it. You go to the gym day 1 and you come back, and then you're looking into the mirror, and what do you see? No change. Day 2, you've gone again, you've come back, looking in the mirror, no change. Day 3, day 4, day 7, day 15, day 20, you keep doing that, you're not going to see any significant change, right? So you're paying the cost every day, you're taking time, effort and energy to go into the gym, you're going through the pain of exercising, of lifting weights, of doing the hard things, you're coming back and you're not seeing any results, right? Because these are activities where you're paying the cost now and you're getting the results later. So the mistake that people make because of this fallacy is they feel like they're seeing no results and then they quit. So the things that are actually worthwhile, like any good habit that you can think about, right? Going to the gym, getting into shape, right? Starting to learn a new skill. It is painful in the beginning, right? You're not going to see any real progress. Starting to read something, right? Maybe reading a book is something that you want to pick up. You do that for the first 10, 15, 20, 25 days, there is going to be no change in you, right? And most people will quit in that period because they're not seeing any results. But what they don't realize is that this is the fallacy playing out. This is the devil that is trying to get them to quit. And so most people will quit, right? But the ones that endure that initial painful period, the ones that realize that this is actually a fallacy and they're being tricked into quitting, will be the ones who will continue paying the cost every day until the results start manifesting in their lives 6 months later, 12 months later, 18 months later, and they see their life starting to change, right? So if you are trying to develop some good habits, understand this fallacy, understand that you're not going to see results immediately, but if you do it over time, things will compound and your life will start to improve, right? These are the two big fallacies which, if you start taking into account every time you make a decision, every time you get something pleasurable and you want to do it, think about what the cost might be and when it might be paid. Every time you're doing something hard and you want to quit, think about what the result might be and when you might get it. You start taking both these things into account and immediately you will see that your decision making will start to improve. You will start to endure the pain. You will start to understand how things work. You will give up short-term gratification for long-term growth and progress. And you do that for a long enough time frame, you make enough good decisions and it compounds into your life starting to become significantly better over time. And that is the result that we are looking for, right? So I think that was it from me. If you enjoyed the video, consider leaving a like, consider subscribing to the channel. I'll be putting out more such content in the near future. Thanks a lot for watching and I will see you soon.